People receive hundreds of digital messages a day, from push notifications to emails. So, how do you engage your top prospects and stand out? By sending personalized gifts the old fashioned way with Sendoso. Sendoso helps you use gift giving and direct mail throughout your customer lifecycle, from lead generation to converting customers into brand advocates. From sourcing to sending and centralizing the direct mail and gifting process, Sendoso helps you scale your gift giving, stand out, and keep your brand top of mind. Visit sendoso.com to learn more.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the B2B Growth Podcast, ABM series. I'm Kris Rudeegraap, CEO of Sendoso and one of the hosts of the show. I'm joined here today by John Common, CEO of Intelligent Demand. Welcome to the show, John.
Hey, Kris. Great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So for the listeners who don't know about Intelligent Demand, can you give like a brief intro?
Yeah, you bet. So, Intelligent Demand, we're a B2B growth agency. And what we do is we help marketers become revenue leaders. The way we do that is by helping the CMOs and the VPs who hire us to help them to design and build and perfect integrated growth programs. That's what we call it, integrated growth programs. And what they are designed to do is to connect the dots in a way that targets specific business needs. Like, we need to acquire new customers, so acquisition, or we need to reduce customer churn, like retention, or we need to cross-sell, upsell, land, and expand with existing customers, or expansion. And those integrated programs that we do together with our clients, it's all about translating, targeted business goals to the right integrated strategy, bringing that integrated strategy to life with integrated omni-channel campaigns. And then the most important part is connecting that to measurable results. And, we've been doing it for a decade with all kinds of clients across lots of different industries, but, account-based is a really central piece of what we do. So it's really cool to be here today talking to you on this ABM series.
Yeah, likewise. What I find interesting is that, you've been around for about a decade now. I would guesstimate that ABM's maybe been around for about half that time. So how have you evolved as an agency, or do you have any kind of perspective based on kind of ABM coming into play? Or do you think you've always been doing ABM? They're just wasn't for it.
Yeah. So, a couple things about that. If you could talk to a salesperson, a B2B sales leader, and you say, tell me about ABM, they say, and correctly so, I think, they say, what is all this ABM talk? I've been doing it since day one, right? So B2B sales teams and successful sellers have always been thinking about accounts, right? So I think what has happened over the last decade, and certainly over the last 5 years, as you pointed out, is that marketing has been catching up, frankly, and to sales. And I know that's a weird thing to say, but I think it's actually kind of true. Catching up to sales relative to the importance, kind of the central importance of understanding that if you don't target the right accounts, it kind of doesn't matter, man, right? So there's that piece.
Totally.
And then the other thing that's been happening, obviously, is the tool sets and the best practices available to today's B2B marketer just, has exploded. And that's mostly a good thing. And the reason I say mostly is obviously marketers can do things today at an account level as well as a contact or human level that they just haven't been able to do in the past, especially when you start to think about how do you scale a truly effective account-based program. Just the capabilities, the tools, the best practices exist today that just weren't in place, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Now, the other side of me saying mostly is, you know where I'm going probably, is that all of those tools, all of those buzzwords, all of those strategies and tactics, comes with a cost, right? Because I think the goal of driving revenue as a B2B marketing leader today, while you have more tools and opportunities than ever before, I think it's never been more complex, right? So I think it's a good thing, but I think it comes with some complexity that has to be managed by marketing teams.
Yeah, and on that point, I think with account-based marketing, it kind of spills over into a lot of different marketing roles. Are you seeing it kind of ABM play in marketing ops and demand gen? And is that something that you guys are chiming in on and helping with?
Yeah, this is my take, and this is Intelligent Demand's point of view as well about account-based. I think you can think about account-based kind of tactically, right? And yep. Let me take it even a step further. I think that it would be incorrect, and I see it all the time though, is that people can reduce account-based down to literally a tool, right? Or a tech or a single tactic. I think that we know that that's a mistake, right? Account-based is not a software platform. Account-based isn't just, for instance, advertising. So I think most people who've been thinking about and doing account-based now for a year or 2 or 3, we're past that. We know that account-based isn't a tactic. But I think we're still seeing pockets where people perceive account-based as a strategy, which is correct, I believe, right? And so when you're planning out your go-to-market for your company, not everything you should do has to be account-based, right? And in fact, it shouldn't be. I mean, there's still a role, I think, for one-to-many kind of demand gen. Frankly, almost all of the companies that we work with, there's still a need for demand gen, and there's also clearly more and more a need for account-based. But if you from our perspective, if you really look at what account-based requires a company to do, and you peel that back, what we see in our point of view is that you see that there are really 7 or 8 key pillars that if you look at them, you go, oh yeah, that's what you have to do account-based. But if you spin the cube just a little bit, you realize, wait a minute, account-based is now forcing us and guiding us to do the things, frankly, that we should have always been doing all along, right? And so what are some of those things? Like, here's an example. Account-based says, okay, if you want to succeed with account-based, you had better take cross-functional alignment and orchestration seriously, right? So if I say that to you, you're like, yep, you got to do that for account-based.
Yeah,
well, my
totally.
You got to do that for B2B revenue, man. Like, you got to be cross-functional. And all those years that we were doing demand gen and throwing leads over the wall to sales, that didn't work back then and either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And here's another example of something where you're like, oh, you're going to go do account-based? Well, you're going to have to really get serious about your data, the quality of your data at the account level, at the demand unit level, at the well, okay, that's true. If you're going to do account-based and succeed, you got to get serious about data. Well, my point is you got to get serious about that no matter whether you're doing account-based or not. And so what I love about account-based is that it is, and the reason I think it's been transforming B2B revenue growth is because not only is it a useful go-to-market strategy, inside of account-based, it contains the pillars for how to be successful with B2B revenue growth.
And are you seeing, either with your clients or just across the industry, it's really, from the Fortune 500 all the way to kind of smaller startups strategy and approach?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing account-based right now with SMBs. We're doing it with mid-market accounts. We're doing it with some of the largest companies in the world. And so, those campaigns or those programs. Say again. What did you say, Chris?
Oh, I was saying, what about some of the cross-industry stuff? Like, I know I was looking on your website, like Kaiser Permanente. Do you see that, like, they're not a B2B company, but it looks like they're a client of yours. Are you seeing this fall outside of B2B companies, or, is this completely just a B2B strategy?
I think it's primarily a B2B strategy. And interestingly, healthcare companies like Kaiser, actually, a huge piece of what they do is B2B. You might not.
Actually, that's a good point too.
Right? Like, how insurance companies, they sell, I think it's like 60+% of people still get their healthcare through their employer, which means that healthcare is a B2B industry, which is, but yeah, whether it's healthcare or telecom or technology or business services, all these verticals that we work in, what we're seeing is that account-based approaches and account-based programs have a really important role to play, regardless of the industry, as long as it's B2B, and regardless of the company size. And again, the reason that is the case is because at the core of account-based, it comes to a company that says, if you want to grow revenue in a more efficient way, you should start by asking yourself, who are the accounts that matter the most to me, that are the most valuable, and where we have the highest chance of winning? That's just a good idea, man. That's just a good idea for any kind of B2B.
Yeah. You alluded to this earlier in terms of like the tech stack expansion because of ABM and some of the interesting things you could do with that. Are you seeing that as an increased kind of service offering where you're helping companies kind of manage that expanded MarTech, sales tech kind of stack now that there's more tools to do more things to be more successful?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the typical intelligent demand client, when we meet them, they normally already have access to a pretty robust tech stack, right? I mean, what I jokingly call the MarTech industrial complex has done a really good job of selling software to marketers, right? And what I think the opportunity is to help marketing teams actually extract more value and more return on investment from those software licenses that they have. So when we engage with a client, the first thing we like to do is put in place an integrated strategy and a program execution that helps them quickly maximize the value for the software they're already own, right? And then as we make that happen together with them, we'll also look for and we will bring to the table opportunities for them to fill in maybe some critical gaps where they don't have the functionality that they need to execute their revenue growth strategy. And obviously, Sendoso is legitimately a great example of that. We're bringing Sendoso into a bunch of accounts where we're doing account-based work. And there's a whole bunch of other partners of ours that we bring to the table. But again, our bias is to start by helping them get more value out of the spend they're already making.
Love it. That makes total sense. Last question here before I let you go, John. Do you have any 2020 predictions for account-based? Anything that you're kind of seeing on the early horizon or anything that you're double downing on?
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay. Well, let's see. A couple things. One, and you and I've talked about this before, but the Bay Area is a place for innovation. It's also where some of the biggest megaphones in our industry reside. And by megaphones, I mean speakers in the industry where it's like, hey, this is what's coming in the industry. And so I think that obviously on the topic of account based, that megaphone has been pumping ABM for 3-4 years now. And so what I see in 2020 is an acceleration of account-based marketing crossing the chasm from kind of early adopter, innovator kinds of marketing teams to I think we're seeing the early majority start to really move through the various phases of the account-based marketing journey. And at a high level, this is how I see those phases working. It's denial is the first phase, right? Where they're like, it's just a buzzword. It's not real.
Yeah.
You move from denial to preparing, and the preparing phase of account-based is when you're like, oh, wait a minute, maybe this isn't just a buzzword. I need to learn more. And then you move from preparing to pilot, where you go, okay, I think account-based could really work here at this company. Let's really try it in a scrappy way and see if we can actually draw blood, see if we can really make a difference. And then you go from piloting to scaling, which is, a whole nother set of problems and challenges and opportunities where you're like, okay, I did it once with duct tape, but what if I was going to do this, across my entire go-to-market strategy? And so I think that in 2020, we're going to see a whole lot more marketing teams moving out of prepare into pilot and moving out of pilot into scale. So that's one kind of big thing that we predict. Obviously, I think we're already seeing more and more consolidation within the MarTech world. I predict, and I'm not the only one who thinks this, but I think we're going to see more consolidation within technology companies. And then the third thing, and this is something that I'm trying to bring together to the market more so with intelligent demand. My team here is whether you're doing demand gen or account based, whether you're focused on acquisition or customer experience or expansion, wherever you are in that in terms of corporate priorities, after doing this for a decade, I'm kind of sick and tired of seeing marketers be down in that kind of integrated campaign layer, trying to do their best job to make a successful campaign happen. And what I'm tired of, frankly, in my career is watching marketers toil in that space without the cross-functional alignment and guidance that they need from the executive team of their company. And so what is the solution to that? Is I think what we're doing more and more with our clients is helping them get serious about their go-to-market strategy and get really serious about, for them to hit the revenue goal, what is the right mix for their go-to-market strategy, and how do they as a company get cross-functionally aligned once and for all around that go-to-market strategy. And I think that's a huge opportunity for 2020. And if a company gets even 20% better at go-to-market strategy and cross-functional alignment, they're going to see all of their campaigns, demand gen, account-based, whatever, they're going to see them get a tremendously higher return on investment from their campaigns and their programs.
Love it. Well, John, really appreciate your time here. Again, thanks so much for the insights and sharing everything that you've learned over the last decade. And thanks again for listening of the B2B Growth Podcast. If this is your first time listening, make sure you click subscribe and listen to us next time. Thanks again, John.
Thanks, Kris.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.